Okay, Jed, what's coming?
Red ball, double homicide, one male, one female. Killer's male, white, 40s.
Stand by.
Time of murder, 8:04 a.m. That is 24 minutes, 13 seconds from now. This is a red ball.
You know how blind I am without those clothes.
All right, Howard Marks. Where are you?
Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained, and today we're going to take a closer look at Minority Report, going through the ending of the film and the short story by Philip K. Dick on which it's based on, to see whether or not we've misinterpreted the conclusion to Spielberg's classic. The basic premise of Minority Report is that by the year 2054, Washington had adopted pre-crime into its city, which was essentially a specialized police department that apprehended criminals based on foreknowledge provided by three psychics called precogs. This method is seemingly so effective that one of the characters who has a gun pointed at him doesn't even begin to take it seriously until he hears a siren indicating that a murder was about to take place.
Yeah, put the gun down, John. I don't hear a red ball.
These would-be criminals who technically haven't actually committed a crime yet are then imprisoned in their own happy virtual reality, an important point that will help shape my main argument on why I believe we've misinterpreted the conclusion to the film.
Why'd you catch that?
Because it was gonna fall.
You're certain?
Yeah.
But it didn't fall. You caught it.
Dealing heavily with the themes of free will versus determinism, the opening of the film portrays pre-crime as a successful branch of the police department that had eradicated murders in the DC area. With the federal government soon to adopt these practices nationwide, the validity of pre-crime is called into question by the Department of Justice, who send one of their agents to do an evaluation of the system before it's green-lit. While the chief of pre-crime and the main protagonist of the film, John Anderton, is able to successfully apprehend a future murderer with his team, his world is brought crashing down after receiving a prediction implying that he was going to murder a man named Leo Crow that he knew nothing about in 36 hours. Now on the run from his friends at pre-crime and the agents at the Justice Department, Anderton meets with Iris Heineman, the creator of pre-crime technology, to find out whether there was a flaw in the system. It's here that Heineman reveals that on a few occasions, one of the precogs, usually Agatha, who was the most gifted of the three, would have a different vision than the other two, known as a Minority Report, which was a possible alternate future. With the revelation that this had been kept secret to prevent the tarnishing of pre-crime's reputation and to ensure the credibility of the system was intact, Anderton broke into the pre-crime headquarters and took Agatha away, resolving to recover the Minority Report and prove his innocence. However, when he tries to extract this from her, he's instead shown the murder of Agatha's mother by a hooded figure for the second time, whom we later find out was Lamar Burgess, the director of pre-crime and John Anderton's mentor. Unlike the film adaptation, the short story didn't deal solely with the cases of murder, but all crimes, and it explains that pre-crime had actually cut down all felonies by 99.8%. In the short story, each of the three precogs generated their own prediction. The reports of all the precogs were then analysed by a computer, and if these reports differed from one another, the computer identified the two reports with the greatest overlap and produced a majority report, taking this as the accurate prediction of the future. But the existence of majority reports also implied the possible existence of a minority report and a potential alternate timeline. As Anderton would eventually discover, sometimes all three reports differ quite significantly, and there may be no majority report, even though two reports may have had enough in common for the computer to link them as such. In the storyline, all the reports about Anderton differed because they predicted events occurring sequentially, and thus each was a minority report. Anderton's situation is explained as unique because he, as police commissioner, received notice of the precog's predictions, allowing him to change his mind and invalidate earlier predictions. As the story unfolded, Anderton received the report that he was going to murder Leopold Kaplan, a man he'd never met. But as he went on the run and attempted to discover why the precogs identified him as the killer, he later found out that much like the film, pre-crime was also under threat by another government agency, under a General Kaplan who sought to abolish the division, claiming that it was inaccurate. I'm sure that you guys will remember that Danny Whitwer from the Department of Justice played a similar role in the film.
You ever get any false positives? Someone intends to kill his boss or his wife, but they never go through with it. How do the precogs tell the difference?
Precogs have to see what you intend to do. Only what you will do.
Giving himself up, he meets with Kaplan at a rally where he's used as an example of the ineffectiveness of pre-crime, and to everyone's surprise, Anderton pulled out a gun and killed Kaplan. Now exiled and on his way to an off-planet prison camp along with his wife, Anderton explained that after obtaining the precog reports, he realized that one minority report said that he would not kill Kaplan. He then noted that each report was based on him having knowledge of the previous reports. The first report said that he would kill Kaplan to prevent pre-crime from being shut down. The second report had a different narrative, with Anderton deciding not to shoot the general after reading the first report, sparing himself and his family from imprisonment. The final report detailed how Kaplan was planning a military coup to install martial law in place of pre-crime, leading Anderton to assassinate Kaplan as it was the lesser of two evils. I think it's important to note that this idea of multiple futures lets the precogs be of benefit, because if only one path existed, the predictions of the precogs would be worthless since the future would be unchangeable. In the film, Anderton also goes through similar steps in that, by receiving information about a crime he was predetermined to do, he was able to exercise his free will and defy the predictions of each of the precogs. While Anderton did eventually find Leo Crow and a pile of pictures of him with his missing son, Agatha reassured him that because he was aware of his future, he had the ability to change it, and the chief ultimately decides to place him under arrest instead of killing him. Crow, on the other hand, begged to be killed, having been hired by Lamar to plant the photos and be killed in exchange for his family's financial well-being, and we see him pull the gun towards himself and force the trigger, essentially killing himself in the process. Although John was not the cause of his demise, due to the circumstances of the death matching the prevision, there was no way for him to prove his innocence. The reason for this was that Lamar had gone to great lengths to ensure that pre-crime was seen as a beacon of justice, killing Agatha's mother who wanted her daughter back, using Anderton's pain at losing his son to create a loyal and dedicated right-hand man, using his wealth and power to manipulate Leo Crow into voluntarily lying about being involved in Sean's disappearance in an effort to get the chief to commit murder, and even killing Danny Whitwer after he began to suspect that Anderton was innocent. He also instructed his technicians to delete all minority reports that showed an alternate timeline where the perpetrators didn't actually commit the crime, which meant that they'd actually put a lot of innocent people away. Anderton is of course eventually captured by pre-crime after meeting with his wife, and is fitted with a halo device which put him into a perpetual sleep state where all his dreams came true. The next thing we see is Anderton dreaming, which included a jarring scene between Lara and Burgess where the director of pre-crime made a silly mistake, implicating himself in the murder of Anne Lively. Is this what is really happening, or is this a Halo-induced dream? Now, I personally think that it's the latter, as Lamar is ruthless and methodical, and based on his interactions with all the characters in the film, I think it's highly unlikely that he would misspeak in front of Lara, alerting her to the possibility that not only was her husband innocent, but that Lamar was the one who set him up. I mean, look at how Burgess reacts to John telling him about what he'd found on Agatha, where he deliberately misdirects John's focus.
That's not all. I spent a few hours down there, and there are a dozen more cases with missing previsions.
I think we've found a cure for the common cold by now.
Scheduled for tour containment tomorrow.
Yeah, give him a tour. Lara called me.
What?
She's worried about you. Quite frankly, so am I.
And also the way that he extracts information from Danny without giving himself away until the end when he strikes with the speed and decisiveness of a snake. We must also consider that his slip up in front of Lara led to Anderton's wife taking a husband's gun and eyeballs that he had used earlier to break into pre-crime and bust him out, leading to the downfall of Lamar, who was outed as a murderer, and the collapse of pre-crime, which is revealed to be fallible. Given all of this, doesn't it seem a bit too convenient and too good to be true that John Anderton got everything he would have dreamed of? I certainly think it is. Now, I believe that everything that happens after the halo is placed on Anderton's head was merely a simulation that was a part of his virtual reality. This would explain the ominous lingering shot of Anderton in sleep mode prior to the false conclusion of the film.
You're insane. Where you think I am.
Don't get me wrong, I'm well aware that he didn't know Lamar was actually involved, but he was close to that revelation prior to his capture, so it would make sense that his subconscious would not only put two and two together, but that it would also create a scenario where he was victorious in the end. I mean, everything that happens after that point is an amalgamation of incredulous coincidences and mistakes that would make him happy, from Lamar implicating himself in front of Lara, to him leaving her a box filled with Anderton's possessions, including his gun, which she would use to break into pre-crime. Why would you leave a gun in her possession when you're intending on visiting Lara the next day to silence her? And on that note, where did she find his eyeball to get access into the pre-crime sleep chamber? Anderton dropped one in the drain and used the other to break in and recover Agatha, but he doesn't keep it when entering the temple, nor does he keep the bag, which could be seen being discarded as he chased after his elusive eyeballs. Which begs the question, how did she get a hold of both the bag and eyeball? It just doesn't make sense. After John is released by Lara, he pretty much narrates the last 10 minutes of the film, completely breaking the film's conventions of storytelling for dramatic effect. This is all in Anderton's mind, so it would make sense for the conclusion to be narrated by him. I think this was a deliberate choice by Spielberg, who generally did this type of thing in his films to draw attention to something that we might otherwise miss. During a dinner celebration of Burgess, Lara also called one of John's friends at pre-crime for a favour, which was to livestream Agatha's spontaneous vision of her mother's murder that ran undisturbed from start to finish for the first time, revealing Burgess to be the person responsible.
Coincidence? I think not!
The film also ends with John and Lara together, expecting the arrival of a new baby, which is a picture-perfect ending, completely unlike the unhappy ending in Philip K. Dick's short story, where our protagonist exercises free will to the detriment of his own life and the life of his family. Spielberg has also characterized the film as 50% character and 50% complicated storytelling with layers of mystery to the plot. Given this, I think it's far more likely that John Anderton was in a metaphysical prison, much like his short story counterpart, and that everything that we saw at the end was a fabrication created by his own mind.
I'm placing you under arrest for the murders of Leo Crow and Danny Whitworth.
Well, that's all for today, folks. Thanks to all of you guys who requested we explore the ending of Minority Report. This, of course, is just my personal theory, and I'm curious to hear what you guys also think, so please share this in the comments below. Don't forget to hit subscribe and click the notification icon to stay up to date on all my content, and if there's anything else you'd like to request, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.
Look at them. Look at how peaceful they all seem. But on the inside, busy, busy, busy. They say you have visions, that your life flashes before your eyes, that all your dreams come true.